So guys, what's going on? I hope you guys are well. So guys, we're on fight week. Pacquiao, Ugas, um, and there's going to be a press conference today at I think 11:45 UK time. Manny Pacquiao, Freddie Roach have made some comments, and I'm going to do videos explaining it. There's going to be a lot of Manny Pacquiao videos this week, of course, because it's a big fight week, and as you guys know, when it's fight week, I like to do that. It's going to be same with Joshua Usyk. When it becomes fight week, I love to do a lot of videos about that particular fight. Just focus on what both fighters are saying, the tactics, the coaches, what they're saying. Obviously, that's the talk of the town in boxing at the minute is Pacquiao Ugas. You see a lot of promotion online, and you're seeing both guys give their take, their training camps and behind the scenes. If you haven't subscribed to like PBC, go subscribe to them. They've got all the back footage. Sky Sports are also promoting this fight because they're going to be showing it here in the UK, and I'm chuffed that Sky Sports are going to be showing this fight. That means we can get to see it, and it's not pay-per-view here either, so it's you know, it's just on normal Sky TV. Manny Pacquiao has mentioned something. I've never really seen him talk about this before. Manny Pacquiao says he wants to end the debate of the greatest fighter of all time. Kate Abdo asked Manny Pacquiao, what is your motivation? Why are you still fighting? Manny Pacquiao responded by saying, I want to end the debate of who's the greatest fighter of all time. He wants to end the debate of who the greatest fighter is of all time. Unfortunately, he won't be able to do that. Even though many of his fans and many people will think he's the greatest fighter of all time. You're never able to end the debate of who's the greatest fighter is of all time, if you see what I mean, because people love to debate. There's always going to be people with differing opinions. There's always going to be people saying, no, he's the greatest fighter of all time, or Ali's the greatest fighter of all time, or Robinson was the greatest fighter of all time, or Mayweather was, there's always, or Jack Johnson was the greatest fighter of all time. There's always going to be somebody with a differing opinion. And that's the thing about boxing. That's the thing about sport. There's people with differing opinions. So unfortunately for Manny Pacquiao, I don't think, and not just Manny Pacquiao, but no fighter, even in the future, will be able to end the debate of who the greatest fighter of all time is, because people like to debate and people see things differently. It's like you have different taste. You may not like the things that I like to eat. I might not like I might not like the things that you like to eat, because we have different taste. The same is with boxing. When people name their greatest fighter of all time, sometimes it can be biased because that person is from their background or that person is from their country. Sometimes it could be biased because of the fact that that person likes that person's style. He just enjoys watching him, so he thinks he's the greatest. That necessarily doesn't mean somebody's the greatest because you enjoy watching them. It just means that you like their fighting style. It appeals to you. But again, there are people out there that like Floyd Mayweather's fighting style, even though majority of fans would prefer Pacquiao's style. But there are people out there that prefer Mayweather's fighting style. So with this, there's no real right or wrong answer. There's no right or wrong answer. Who you think is the greatest fighter of all time is subjective. It doesn't really, there's no real answer to it. It's not like 1 + 1 is 2. We know that 1 + 1 is 2. That's a fact. But when we're talking about the greatest fighter of all time, there's no fact. It's all debate. It's all a debate. Some people will say Ali. Some people will say Manny Pacquiao. Some people will say Sugar Ray Leonard. Some people will say Sugar Ray Robinson. Manny Pacquiao fans will say, oh, Manny's an 8-division world champion. He's a 5-weight lineal champion. Mayweather's fans will say, well, Mayweather's never been beat. He beat Pacquiao, beat everybody. Some people will say, well, Ali, Ali beat, he's a three-time heavyweight champion of the world. He beat, look at his resume, beat all-time greats. He's got all-time greats on his resume. He beat so many great fighters. Sugar Ray Robinson, he had over 200 fights. He was exceptional, God-gifted. So and Sugar Ray Robinson was a beast in his day, no doubt about it. So, and I had somebody the other day, I don't know whether it was on the live stream, say that Sugar Ray Robinson never fought anybody. Sugar Ray Robinson fought a lot of great fighters. For one, he fought an all-time great in Jake LaMotta. If we look at Mayweather's and Pacquiao's resume, right, they haven't fought anybody that is high on the greatest fighters of all time as Jake LaMotta. If Jake LaMotta, if you were to do a top 50, right, Jake LaMotta probably is in the top 50 greatest fighters of all time. Or he's higher than any of Pacquiao's and Mayweather's competition, that's for sure. Jake LaMotta was a great fighter, great middleweight. So when you're talking about the greatest fighter of all time, it's very subjective. There's no right or wrong answer at all. There's no right or wrong answer. There's no right or wrong answer whatsoever. It's all a matter of opinion. But Pacquiao, what he's done and what he's still doing, the fact that he's been fighting for 4 decades, the fact that Pacquiao's been fighting for 4 decades, that's I'd be very surprised if that happens again. For somebody to stay dedicated for that long and still at the age of 42 to be competing against the best. And let's not forget who he was supposed to fight. He was supposed to fight Errol Spence. He was supposed to be fighting Errol Spence this week, not Ugas. And it wasn't his fault that fight fell through. Errol Spence unfortunately picked up an injury. But let's not forget what Pacquiao is doing at 42 years of age and the level of competition. Like, a lot of people talk about Bernard Hopkins going to 50, and what Bernard Hopkins did was great. But when I look at Bernard Hopkins' resume from like 40 to 50, he didn't beat anybody on the level. I might be wrong. If I'm wrong, point it out. I don't think he beat anybody on the level of Keith Thurman. And I don't think he was fighting anybody on the level of Errol Spence. So what I'm trying to point out to you guys is that there's one thing being a 40-year-old and fighting, and what Bernard Hopkins did was unreal. Being a champion at age of 40, he was nearly 48, 49 when he was a world champion, Bernard Hopkins. But Manny Pacquiao is beating top guy like Keith Thurman, and then fighting Errol Spence. That's crazy, man. That's crazy. Because when Bernard fought Kovalev beat him. So this is what I'm trying to say. It's very difficult to compete against the best when you get to that age. Manny Pacquiao beat Keith Thurman and he was going for Errol Spence. So, like I said, I don't think there's any fighter in history, especially if Pacquiao had beaten Spence, that would have had as successful a career at that age. And like I said, I think it would have been up there as one of the greatest. It would have definitely been the greatest welterweight win of all time. But it probably would have been one of the greatest wins of all time. Just because of the stage of where Pacquiao's at and how highly Errol Spence is rated. I don't think people really understand what Pacquiao's doing at this stage. And the fact that he's fighting Ugas, who's another quality operator. Ugas is a really good fighter. Really, really good fighter. Look at the trouble he gave Sean Porter. This is no easy fight for Manny Pacquiao. Not that very difficult fight, actually. So you got to give Manny Pacquiao a lot of credit for him fighting, this level of competition. And not just that, even though Errol Spence pulled out, or Errol Spence, got injured and he had to be pulled out, Manny didn't say, you know what, I'll fight a nobody, just get an easy win. Manny said, no, give me Ugas. I'll fight Ugas, who's another top quality, top welterweight. But that tells you the mindset of Manny Pacquiao, right? As Freddie Roach says, he wants to fight the best. He wants to get in the ring with the best. He doesn't want to fight nobodies. He wants to fight the top level guys. And that's why I've got a lot of respect for Manny Pacquiao, because Manny Pacquiao, he's not here to cherry pick his fights, or here to just call up his record. This guy wants to fight the best, and for the first time I've heard Manny Pacquiao say that I want to end the debate of who the greatest fighter of all time. So this means a lot to him. Initially, I thought he didn't care, but the fact that he's still going on and he still wants to be great tells you that this debate of being the greatest fighter of all time means something to Manny Pacquiao. And even if you guys don't think he's the greatest fighter of all time, I know some of you don't, he wants to be in that discussion. He wants to have his name in that mix. From his side, he wants to do everything possible he can do to be remembered as the greatest fighter of all time. From his side, he wants to do all he can to be remembered as that. And I respect that. Even though that doesn't necessarily mean that unanimously that everybody will think that Manny Pacquiao is the greatest fighter. Because as I said earlier on, it's subjective. Many people will think they'll have that fighter or that fighter or that fighter that they think is the greatest. But for me, Manny's trying to do all he can from his side. He wants to be great from his side. He wants to do all he can from what he can do, the best he can give. But no doubt, Manny Pacquiao's name will be remembered in the history of the sport of boxing. And he'll be remembered as one of the greatest of all time, without question. I don't think anyone can dispute that. He will be remembered as one of the greatest fighters of all time. I haven't seen, some of the young fighters today should learn of Manny Pacquiao. Should take his blueprint and do what he's doing. Boxing would be a much greater place. Boxing would be a much more exciting sport if they were to take his blueprint. So it's been an incredible journey. It's been an incredible career. And it's still going. We don't know when it's going to end. Manny Pacquiao saying it could be his last fight. Who knows where this is going to end? Is he going to fight Errol Spence? Is he going to call it a day? We just don't know. But Manny Pacquiao from his side is trying to do everything he can do to be remembered as the greatest fighter of all time. So you've got to respect that. You've got to respect Manny Pacquiao. You've got to respect Manny Pacquiao. Let's see. Let's see how his fight with Ugas plays out. Personally, I see him stopping Ugas. But like I said, and who was it that pointed out that Father Time can catch up? Mike said this a couple of weeks ago that, Father Time could catch up with Manny Pacquiao. He's not young. He is old. And we just don't know when Father Time will catch up. We just don't know when Manny Pacquiao becomes old overnight. So, yeah, let's see. Let's see how this plays out. What do you guys think? Leave your thoughts in the comment section below. Manny Pacquiao wants to end the debate of who the greatest fighter of all time is. Leave your thoughts. And, guys, remember to please like, share, and subscribe to my channel. I'll see you guys in the next video. Peace.